Thank you all so much for being here tonight. My name is Josh Clark. I'm the head of school at the Schenck School here in Atlanta. And if you're wondering, you did hear that right. It is the Schenck School. We are a school in our 58th year of transforming the lives of dyslexic learners in the greater metro Atlanta area. I have been in this job for a year and a half now. And prior to that, I was a head of a school in Memphis called Bodine School, very similar to Schenck in its mission. But again, took up this opportunity about a year and a half ago and have loved it. And before I get into my remarks, I do have to give you a quick story. It kind of captures how good I am at this whole work-life balance. So today is my birthday. Thank you. So it is my birthday. Kirk is going to send around a little basket. Please feel obligated to contribute. But so I was explaining to my wife why I couldn't have a birthday dinner with my family. And I explained this wonderful opportunity, and she said, so let me understand this. You're going to go to work on a Sunday, on your birthday, to talk about how good you are at work-life balance. I said, exactly. So clearly, this is very much a journey for me and something I am still working on. But when this opportunity came up and I really started thinking about it, I really tried to think through what is my own process. Because again, it's something I'm always struggling with, I'm always thinking about. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old. So at home right now, and every day before school and after school, I'm missing this amazing opportunity to be with my kids when they still want to hang out with me, right? When they still want to play, when they still want me to be a part of their life. So I'm always trying to think about how do I find more time. And for me, and this is not perfect, but for me in this journey, the way I'm going about it is I'm really thinking about it in terms of ownership, leadership, and taking time to get in sync. And so that's kind of the 3 areas I'm going to very briefly touch upon. And so when I think about ownership and this idea of owning my own time, I know I am very prone, as I'm sure many of us are in this room, to say things like, I would have more time if, right? I would have more time if my assistant did a better job scheduling, or I would have more time if so-and-so was more efficient at their job, or I could work out if, the board didn't have these ridiculous demands, and so on and so forth. And I still do that very often. And I have to work to stop myself, to remind myself that I own my time. Nobody in this room has any more time than I do. Right? The way I spend my time, what I do with it is 100% a choice. And I'm free to choose, but I'm also responsible for my choices. And so I know that's kind of an ethereal, large idea, but it's something I think about all the time. I try every day when I start feeling bad for myself or I start making excuses to remind myself that I'm 100% in control. And so in doing this and thinking about it so much and trying to get better at it, I also have gone on a journey where I've really changed my understanding of what it means to be a leader or in a leadership position. Because I know for me, I think many of us, especially in independent schools, the very things that get you into leadership are the very things that will hold back your growth. Early on in my career, I went to a presentation, and the theme was, what got you here won't get you there. And that's really resonated and continues with me. Because the reason I believe that I was able to look forward and grow in my career and go into administration was because as a teacher, I was really good at solving my own problems. I never had to go to an administrator and complain or say, oh, this parent's upset, or I did this really stupid thing, or da-da-da-da. I was really good at closing that door and making it all happen. And what got me noticed was that no one ever noticed me. Right? And I think when we think of our best teachers, it's not the teacher that's at our door at 7 o'clock every morning. It's not the teacher we're emailing constantly. It's that teacher that thinks through the problems ahead of time, that makes the right choices, and again, that we notice because we don't notice them. But as I got into leadership, I realized that was the exact opposite of what I needed to be doing. When I first got into leadership, I thought it was my job to solve everybody's problems. And I brought a prop to show you, right? So if you look at this idea of a triangle, I really thought that as a leader, I was supposed to be up here, right? And I was constantly up here, and I was telling people what to do, not necessarily how to do it, but I thought my job was to make sure that we were getting things done. And I would get so frustrated because it would be so clear to me what you're supposed to do and how you were supposed to do it. And yet, people would misunderstand, or they wouldn't do it the way I wanted it done, or whatever the case may be. And I spent so much time stepping in and doing things the way I thought it should be done. And then over time, and it's still very much a process for me, over time, I've started to try to literally flip this around. And now as a leader, I think of myself down here. And what I try to spend the majority of my time on is creating context where other people flourish. Right? So my job as a leader isn't to make sure that things are getting done. My job is to make sure that I have the right people and that have the right support and that I'm supporting and directing their growth so that they can get their jobs done effectively. And I know that sounds kind of obvious at times and kind of simple, but if you really think about how you spend your day, right? I think most of us spend it at the top of that triangle, right, going down. I know still, even as I work on it and think about it, I'll often find myself up here, right? And so what I now try to do is spend time getting in sync with people, right? That's my main objective. When I have a meeting, I have 11 or 12 direct reports, right? Which is ridiculous, right? But I do, and I meet with them each weekly. And at the end of each meeting, I try to keep a mental log of how many questions I answered and how many questions I asked. Because if I'm answering more questions than I'm asking, I don't think I'm doing it right. Right? Because as a leader, the way I free up my time, the way that I allow myself to do things and know that I can leave campus and have it not all fall apart, the way that I do that is to ensure that I'm supporting these folks in their growth, right? In their own professionalism and their ability to solve those problems. As an example, one of the exercises that we all do that I'm constantly looking at is we talk about the difference between getting things done and being effective, right? So I have everyone on my leadership team, including myself, we go through a branding exercise at least twice a year. And we try to understand, right, what's our brand? Not are we getting things done, but when I go and I talk to people, I ask them, or I'm trying to inform a new initiative, do people trust me? Do people like me? Do people respect me? Because if they do, people are going to be a lot more likely to do things versus if I just go and say, do it, right? And so we have a lot of conversations about those things. Right now at my school, we're in the process of coming up with a list of principles. Many of you may be familiar with Ray Davio, the head of Bridgewater, huge hedge fund, right? He just came out with a book called Principles. Don't read it. It's really not that good. But you can get a summary. It's about 10 pages, and it's the principles that dictate the way problems are solved, things are answered, new ideas are considered at Bridgewater. And that's something that we're doing as a school because the more time we spend getting in sync, the more time we consider and think through and understand how we work and the box within which we operate, I no longer have to worry about spending all my time up here, right? Thinking about, are you doing the right job? Are you doing what I'm asking? Because it's very clear. The time I spend getting in sync saves me so much time on the back end. And it's a little unbelievable, and it's still something I have to adjust and get to because I really just want to tell people what to do because it's so much easier, right? I want to tell them the way I would have it done, but instead, I find myself consciously working to ask questions, to understand. Because what I also have found is that from being down here, I see so much more about who's in the right seat on the bus, who's doing things correctly, who's growing, who's not. Because when I'm up here, I'm way too busy getting things done to really notice and understand. So that's kind of where I'm at in my own considerations and understanding of what it means to have work-life balance. Because if I don't have the right people, if for a moment I think campus is going to fall apart if I leave, I'm doing it all wrong. All wrong. I've got to be able to make those choices and know that I'm investing the time in the people so that they can operate and things can happen with or without my direct presence. So again, very much a process. I'll keep you updated on how that goes. I'm sure my wife will be glad to tell you. If you ever meet her, I'm sure she'd have a very different opinion of my work-life balance. So it's something I'm working on. But again, thank you all so much, and I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker.